Hey, what's up guys? In this video I'm going to be doing a rough mix using only Neutron. I have my track idea here. Everything is set at 0. I'm going to bring the master fader volume down just a little bit so you can listen to this. Alright, so things are pretty unbalanced. That ride is very abrasive, so what we're going to do is I'm going to start the mixing process, and we're going to be using only Neutron. So I'm going to basically take stock of everything that I have here. I have kick, bass, clap, percussion, a ride, and then a synth. So yeah, this is basically 3 parts. The kick and bass, the percussion-y elements occupying the mid to high end, and the major lead part, this right here. Alright, so I want all these to kind of fit well together. So I'm going to start with my kick. This is basically where I always start. I grab my kick, I solo, and I bring down the volume to -3 dB. Right, that's about -3 dB. Perfect, that's a good starting point. I'm going to name this to kick for the masking we're going to be doing later. I'm not going to be using track assistant because I'm a dad. I'm going to drop Neutron into our bass. And I'm going to make that roughly equal with the kick, just to kind of I'm basically, just moving the faders. This is what mixing engineers do. They move the faders very quickly, and they get everything kind of sitting well, and then they EQ. Okay, and this will be cool. Kick and bass, and I have my clap here. Right, something really interesting here is that these kind of occupy the same overall space. So I'm going to actually group these, put these in a group, and drop Neutron in there by double clicking on it, opening it up, clap and perks. I'm gonna just kind of move that fader arbitrarily somewhere. Now I'm going to drop it on the ride and bring the fader quite a bit down. Rides tend to be very harsh sounding because they occupy a lot of the high frequency areas. And Neutron, oh, I didn't even name that one. I'm going to be dropping Neutron on our synth ride. It's good to name things. Synth. Okie doke. So I'm going to start with my kick. The kicks are how I EQ everything. I EQ everything and mix everything around the kick because to me the kick is the most important part. I could be living in a special world, but that's basically how it works. So I can turn on masking and see how it conflicts with the bass. I'm actually not going to do that right now. I want to basically show you in a momento. So I have my kick open here. What I like to do is I like to carve out a little bit of the low end here. And there's a lot of high end there. You can actually see that right about here. And I'll limit just for fun. There. That should be basically it here. I might even add a low pass cutoff, roll that off at 30 hertz. Okay, that should be okay. Going to have my kick, or my bass right here. And I'm going to mix that in with the kick using masking. So basically, what's happening is this instance of Neutron is talking to this one. which is the kick instance of Neutron. So I'm going to go hit masking, hit the drop down and kick, because I want the kick to show me, I want the EQ to show me where the kick and the bass are kind of conflicting. Now, this is like a rough guideline. It's not actually what's happening. You can change the sensitivity. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but it's a good starting point. So let's check that out. All right, so it's occupying a lot of the low end. We can fix that simply by sidechaining, and a little bit of the high end here. So if I want the bass to kind of poke through, I will remove that part from the kick, and which is something that I already do. So as I decrease this, you'll see this move here. This is the kick, and this is the bass EQ. So if I move, the one in the background moves also, like magic. And if I increase that, we'll start to hear some masking occurring. But I'm not going to follow it to a T because I want my kick and bass to sit well kind of naturally. If I were to, remove everything that could be masking itself or another thing, it would basically lose all of our bass. So it's just a rough guideline. So, the sub bass is conflicting. We can fix that with sidechain, or maybe even somewhat of a dynamic EQ. Who knows? But yeah, let's kind of carve that little piece out. I'm gonna have this guy right here because I know the bass might conflict with the percussion later on down the line. So we'll listen to these both. And I'm looking at my master bus here, and we've got still a lot of headroom, so we're all good to go. So let's move on to the next guy. So this is the clap and percussion. I'm not going to use an equalizer right away. I'm going to drop a compressor in there. And this is basically a compressor, but it also acts as a multiband compressor. And I can have a compressor before the EQ, after the EQ. I can have them set up in kind of stages. I can have one multiband, one single band. But yeah, I'm just going to kind of clean up the dynamics a little bit. You can see the gain reduction here. Might be a little too much compression. Increase the attack. Or sorry, decrease the attack. Make the attack shorter or longer, so more of those things poke through. Yeah, so we get more of a dip when the clap occurs. I want that. So I'm just gonna, since this is just an example video exploration, I'm gonna leave it at that. Going to open the transient shaper and give that a try. This is kind of sort of another compressor, so you basically have three, but this detects things in a way that it detects transients, not dynamics. So yeah, what we can do is split this up into two bands, and I'll solo this one. All right, so I want those hi-hats to kind of be more punchy. So it's kind of like a reverse compressor. It's doing upwards compression on that one part, bringing out the hi-hats a bit more. The reason why I split it up into a multiband is because I don't want the toms and the low end to be as punchy. Like it could sound like this, but I might just dial it back a little bit. So from here, I'm going to equalize. So we've got the compressor to kind of smooth things out a little bit. Transient shaper to bring it back up. And somehow that sounds good. Don't ask me why. And then we're going to equalize now. So you'll notice that we have, oops, I'm going to unsolo that. Use your ears. All right, so we have that tom in the lower end of the spectrum, and that might conflict with the bass. I want that bass to kind of really poke through. So that tom is, it's all about like compromises and deciding who basically what isn't important. I was thinking of a joke. What isn't important, and then throwing that out and leaving what is important. And what's important is this bass here, because it's got a groove and it's cool, and it's gonna get all the honeys. So we're gonna get rid of the tom if it's indeed masking, which I think it will. So I'm gonna mask with the bass. Down here is our bass, and I'm going to these two. I accidentally pressed the Windows key. Yeah, there's obviously something going on there. The gentle little shelf on the top here. All right, you can hear those toms really arguing with that bass, so use a shelf to kind of roll them out. Maybe even a high pass. Just a high pass. And if I whisper, can you still hear me? Listen to it by itself. Yep. So they're still kind of coming through, but there you go. That is that. But you can really hear that the toms just don't work. Right. This is all an example to help you through what you might be coming across. So we're using kind of extreme examples. So speaking of extreme example, we have our rides. Now these irritate me, but they bring the track together quite well. Yeah, they have a lot of high frequency, a lot of it's just a lot of stuff going on in the hi-hat department, or the ride department. But what it does is it pulls everything together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a low pass, or sorry, a high pass. And select like a gentle roll off, 6 dB per octave, maybe 12. Yeah, you don't really need all that low end frequency in the rides. So that masks with a lot of other stuff, I can already tell. Right, and to me this sounds a little unnatural, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to carve out the top end. Again, I don't want that high-end stuff to come through that much. Try 24 dB per octave. Okay, let's try an exciter. Just because this might be a way to kind of roll off the top end a little bit using excitation. We'll call it that. So I'm just gonna experiment. Tape offers a little bit of compression. And we'll add a transient shaper just for fun. Right, so that really kind of pushed things together. And yeah, I think it's a combination of the exciter and the transient shaper. So basically, for EQing, we're taking away... Oh, actually, the compressor, we didn't actually do anything. Oh, my brain. Okay. Maybe just level it out. That obviously affected the transient shaper as well. A lot you can do with the transient shaper. All right, we got something 80% of the way there, but let's move on. So we have that. So now we have our percussion guy, our synth guy here. So the first thing you want to do is bring down the volume. So let's see what we're masking with in the clap and perks. All right, so the synth is a lot more important to me than the percussion and claps and perks, so I'm going to carve it out a tiny bit. All right, and I'm gonna give it a nice little shelf down here. Get rid of that low end where, you know, it might be conflicting with the bass a little bit. Okay, let's get a transient shaper in there now. And yeah, just for fun, we will multiband him. And I want the top end to kind of poke through a bit more. We got a brief 10 dB of you know, increase in amplitude at the transient, which is good. It's changing the balance a little bit, so I'm gonna bring that back up. And this is with no side chaining, so there you have it. I'm just getting some multiband distortion, saturation going, and then now I'm going to compress a tiny bit. I'll just have it in vintage mode, just so I'm using more of everything. Hook this up in multiband mode. And I add a limiter in there just for fun. All right, so there is that. That's about 20 minutes. Hope you guys enjoyed. What else? Yeah, it's just a fun little utility. It'll help you along if you're struggling with masking, and it's also a nice little channel utility as well. So yeah, that is Izotope Neutron. Hope you learned stuff. Take care and have a good one.